So, what is CSS? CSS is a cascading style sheet which allows you to create great looking web pages. But how does it work under the hood? Let's see how it works. What is CSS for? As we have mentioned before, CSS is a language for specifying how documents are presented to users, how they are styled, laid out, etc. So let's start by doing something. I've created my index.html already and my style.css. So let's start by writing some codes in our HTML. So our title will be Getting Started with CSS. So here, I'll create a H1. I'll say I am a level, I'm a level 1 language, sorry, level 1 heading. Now, under this H1, I'll create a paragraph. I'll say this paragraph contains only the paragraph, only the paragraph text. Now I'll say in the paragraph text, sorry, in the paragraph text, there is a span element and also a link. The link will be, I'll put it in an anchor tag. So I'll say https://example.com. Also a link like this. So I'll save this and let's get it running on our web browser. Then the next one, before our web browser will be open, let's add another paragraph and say, okay, the web browser is open now. Let me bring you over. So I'll say this is my second paragraph. Which contains emphasized elements. Now I'll save this one again. As you can see, this is our second paragraph. This is my second paragraph, which contains an emphasized element. So I'll add on ordered list. Say UL inside the ordered list. I'll add item and say item 1. And here I'll add another list and give it item 2. I'll add another list. I'll give it item 3. Oh, I think we're good with this. So let's add CSS in our document. The very first thing we need to do is to tell the HTML document that we have some CSS fields we wanted to use. Okay, so there are 3 different ways to apply CSS to an HTML document that you will commonly come across. However, for now, we will look at the most usual and useful way of doing so, linking CSS from head of our document. So what do? We go to our head. This is our head. Yeah, our opening and closing tag. So what do? We will link our CSS by saying link will be a self-closing tag. Now add the REL. The reference should be style sheet. And the HTML, the name of our CSS is style.css. So write style.css. We automatically linked our CSS in our HTML documents. Do you want to see it work? Okay. Let's go to our CSS. Let's say, but before that, let me explain this link. This link element tells the browser that we have a style sheet using the rel attribute and the location of that style sheet as the value of the href attribute. So let's test our CSS to know if it's working. We come here, let's say h1 curly braces, right, color of red. Now, what I did is I want all the h1 elements inside our HTML to turn to red. This is our h1 here. So I want it to turn to red. As you can see, the color is black by default. So once I save this, we now have colored h1, red colored h1. So by making our heading red, we have already demonstrated that we can target and style an HTML element. So we do this by targeting an element selector. This is an element selector, h1. We target it like this. So we get our element selector. So this is a selector that directly matches an HTML element name. So to target all paragraph in the document, I will use selector P. If I write P like this, I will automatically get all the paragraph text inside our HTML elements. So let's say color green. I'll say now we have green. All our paragraph text is now in green color. So we can also target multiple selectors at the same time by separating the selectors with a comma. If you want all paragraph and all list items to be green. So let's say P, comma, then LI. I want all my paragraph and my all list items to be green. So I'll say color green. I say now these are my paragraphs and this is my list items. All of them is now in green color. So when we look at the well marked up HTML document, even something as simple as example now, we can see how the browser is making the HTML readable by adding some default styling, heading large and bold, and our list has bullets. And what I mean by bullet is these points here in our list items. So this happens because browser have internal style sheets containing default styles, which they apply to all pages by default. Without them, all of the text would run together in a column and we would have to style everything from scratch, you know. All modern browsers display HTML content by default in pretty much the same way. Even if you're using Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, name them, any browser, all of them, they will display HTML document by default. Yeah. So however, you will often want something more other than the choice the browser have made. You can use the choice the browser made. So you need to add your own style and whatever you want. So this can be done by choosing the HTML element that you want to change and using a CSS rule to change the way it looks. So a good example is our UL and other lists. So it has bullet points. This is our UL. It has bullet points. If you don't want to those bullet points, you can remove it by saying oh, li list type. I'll say long. Let's say now we don't have any bullet points again in our HTML. So adding a class in our HTML. So what do we do? So far we have styled element based on their HTML element names. This works as long as you want all of the elements of that type in your document to look the same. So to select a subset of the element without changing the others, you can add the class to your HTML element and target the class in your CSS. So what do we do? Let's come here in our item 2. I'll give it a class of special and save. Now, you will not see any effect. Yeah. Why do we add this class? We want to use this value to style this particular item from our CSS. So how do we do that? I'll come to my CSS and say period special order braces. I'll give it color of orange. Then I'll give it font weight of bold. So in what we are doing is we are targeting the class of special by creating a selector that starts with a period. You see it? Our selector, we didn't start our selector like this. Our selector started with a period. So period, then special. We are this period will come and search for any class that has special value here. The value of special in your HTML document. It will grab everything and give it the style. So now I save and we have item 2. We can also apply class or special to any element on our page that we want to have the same look as this list item. For example, we might want the span in the paragraph to also be orange and bold. So let's try adding a class or special to it and then save to see the outcome. Let's say li dot special, give it color of orange, and font weight and bold. Save. I commented this. As you can see, it's still the same thing. This syntax means target any li element that has a class of special. If you were to do this, then you would no longer be able to apply the CSS to a span or another element by adding the class to it. Let's say li dot special, comma, span dot special, color braces, or say color orange, then give it font weight of bold. I'll say Oh, sorry, I didn't get this special. So now we still have our font of bold and color of orange. That's cool, right? So let's type things based on their location in a document. So there are times when you will want something to look different based on where it is in the document. So there are a number of selectors that can help you in doing such thing. But for now, we will look at just a couple of things. So in our document, there are two EM, one and two. So one inside this paragraph and the other inside the list item. To select only an EM that is nested inside a LI element. So this EM that's nested inside an LI element, that's what we're going to get now. So let's use a selector called descendant combinator. We use a selector called descendant combinator, which takes the form of a space between two other selectors. So what do? I'll come here and say li space em versus log, then color of Rebecca open or save. Now we have Rebecca purple in our item 3. So this selector will select any EM element that is inside a descendant of an LI, which is this list item 3. So something else you might like to try is starting a paragraph when it comes directly after a heading at the same hierarchy level in the HTML. So to do so, let's place a plus. It means an next sibling combinator between the selectors. So how do we do that? We come here in our CSS and say h1 plus p. I'll give it font size of 200%. I'll save. Is it? So let's start things based on their state. So let's take a look at starting things based on their state. A straightforward example of this is when styling links. So when we style a link, we need a target. We need to target the A tag, which is there. We need to target this. That's the anchor element. So this has different states depending on whether it is unvisited, visited, being hovered over, focused via the keyboard, or in the process of being clicked, that is activated. You can use CSS to target these different states. The CSS we are about to start now is unvisited links pink and visited links green. So let's say A color link. We'll say color pink. Then you say A colon visited, give it color of green. So this is our link. As you can see, the link is in pink color now. Then when I click on it and go back, now the color has turned to green because I have visited the link. The color just turned to green, showing that this link, somebody has visited it. So let's change the way the link looks when the user hover on the link. Like when we hover on the link like this, let's change the way it looks. For example, let's say A over, I'll say text decoration, none. I'll say, so if I hover my mouse, my cursor here, as you can see, the underline keeps appearing and disappearing.